name's Emma. Today we are talking about another Netflix original called The Haunting of Bly Manor. When it comes to choices and decisions, the ones that we make with more intention will help us create the world that we want to live in. So we talk about here on this channel, how can we take our power back every single moment of every single day when we make more intentional choices. The Haunting of Bly Manor is, well, more of a scary story than we've talked about so far, but it had some very important lessons throughout the show. I believe it was a limited series, so that means that it was a complete story, a complete beginning to end, and it was, I believe, about 7 to 8 episodes, which is how they usually do limited series. And I'm going to go over 3 different things that I learned and want to share those with you. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is it starts off with a woman who is looking to become a nanny for 2 children, and those children lost their parents in a tragic accident, and they're in the care of their uncle, and the uncle is trying to find a nanny to take care of them. That's basically the premise of this. And we see that the woman who wants to go and actually be the nanny has something that she's running away from. And we see that when she is looking in a mirror, and behind her, she can see the shadow that keeps popping up. And that's the second point that we're going to get into, is how music affects everything. And like when we watch a scary movie, the music that is added, the soundtracks that are added really up the intensity of what is happening and what you're feeling when you're watching it. So we constantly see the shadow with glowing eyes keep popping up behind her. Now, it's not until later in the series that we figure out what this actually means, but that is the one thing that I want to start off with saying is there's a past that is haunting her, and then there is another storyline that she's being haunted by. But it was her past that she couldn't let go of that kept haunting her. And until she gets to that point in the show where she finally comes to terms with what's happened, and even when she is really showing in the show what she went through, she is still trying hard to forget it, but it keeps coming back up. And I know that we've talked quite a bit about like forgetting your past and moving on, learning the lessons and letting it go. And the thing is, our past is going to continue to come up, whether the actual past or the past is going to come up in new events that happen that reflect our past, until we decide that we are going to take a step back and really reevaluate what is going on in our life and what is happening and how it correlates to what has happened. And I know that I have made many different friends across the years. I've had many different kinds of relationships over the years, and it feels like looking back on it, it was like the same one over and over again, and me feeling the same way at the end of all of them. Because we tend to go towards things that feel familiar, not necessarily things that are good for us. So she kept reverting back to the story when she was in these hard times because that was something that she had to cope with before, and it was familiar to her. Now that's a big thing that is happening when we keep seeing ourselves in the same situation over and over again. Not because these situations are necessarily good for us, but because there's a familiarity in it that is bringing this sort of feeling like, oh, I've been through this, I know how to deal with it, even though you may have not actually dealt with it in a good way, but it's something that you have been through, so your mind automatically is like, oh, this is familiar, this is good, like, and it goes down this rabbit hole of we want to be doing the same experiences because there was some sort of payout for those experiences. So it could be a bad one and it could be a good one. There's always consequences to continuing to do the same thing. Consequences can be good or bad. If you get up and really early and you're working out and you're reading your book, there's consequences to that. They may not be bad, but they may be good. And sometimes it's a combination of both. And we have to really think about the consequences of things and the consequences of continuing to be trapped by our past of, you know, we don't want to unfollow someone, we don't want to stop talking to someone because it would hurt their feelings. We don't want to break free of our past because there's a familiarity in it. And until we break free of this and understand, well, you know, I'm free from this. I can get new experiences and I can learn from those as well. We don't have to continue to learn the same lesson over and over again. There's so much of life to be lived. And once she, in the show, finally got rid of feeling the guilt over what happened and that what happened to the person that she kept seeing in mirrors, who kept literally being a shadow of her life, she couldn't move forward until she had fully let go of what happened and understood that it's in the past and she needs to move forward. So that was a big thing that I took away, was we can be trapped by our past forever. We can be haunted by it literally every single moment of every single day until we step back, we realize what happened, analyze it, and then we move on. We actually legitimately let it go by choosing to create new behaviors in our life that reflect this new life that we want. So for the second point, there is lots of music in the show that, amps up the feeling of being scared, and it amps up the terror. And like whenever there was a really haunting scene or a really dark scene, there would be the intense music, the dramatic music. But there was also times where the kids were laughing and running around, and there was soft music that was playful, and it really reflected the moods of the show. And this is how a lot of movies are created. There is an amazing soundtrack behind it because music is so important to every single thing that we do. And we need to understand that the soundtrack that we play in our own lives will affect our moods as well. If we're constantly listening to music that is really intense and degrading, and the messages in the songs themselves, if we continue to play the same song over and over again, there's usually a message in that song that we are relating to, and we can take a moment back and look at the music and be like, oh, like, I agree with this, that's why I keep singing it, that's why I feel so much. We can talk to someone, but when we play a song, it says even more than it could possibly tell you, than somebody could tell you in that song. So music, the soundtrack of our own lives. There's actually another great Netflix show called Soundtrack that I may talk about at some point as well, where music is this underlying factor of everything that we do. And there's music all around us. All of the beautiful birds that are singing, all of the trees rustling in the wind. And there is so much music out there always. And the ones that we choose to listen to reflect the moods that we're in, reflect how things are going in and out. So what is the soundtrack of your own life? Is it music that's very sad and depressing? And, music can be very cathartic. If we feel like we're in a really bad place, we might want to play music that does make us feel sad because it reflects how we're feeling. So the music we listen to reflects how we're feeling. I didn't usually play really exciting and happy music when I was in a bad mood. But I could if I wanted to get myself out of that bad mood. Sometimes I would do that. If I was like super stressed about everything, I would just put on like a fun song I could dance to, and then I would be in a better mood. So music is one of those tools we haven't talked about as much, but it is absolutely an important tool to make us feel better about our world, make us understand our worlds, because everything is sounds and vibrations, and the ones we listen to will continue to amplify how we feel on the inside. So I listen to frequency music a lot more now. I'm going to post a few down below, and I always have it playing in the background now. Now, if this is something that you've never heard of before, check it out. Just keep it playing in the background. You can put it extremely low or extremely loud, however you want to do it. There's one that I have been playing as I sleep, which I just played off my phone near my bed, and that may sound really weird or scary or whatever. Of course, I am just doing things that I feel work for me. Feel free to do as you please. Consult the right authorities before you do anything, of course, but that's something that I do. I constantly play music that makes me feel better, that taps me into the present as much as possible too. That's something as well, when we listen to music, we're probably not thinking of something else if we're really into the song, if we're singing along, if we're moving to it, if we're, we're very rarely like listening to a song that we really like and anticipating the next song that's going to be played. If we're probably not enjoying it as much. So enjoying music is a really important thing as well. And the show did a really good job at showing me, like, if I was to play this silently, like, it would be a very different experience. And so music is awesome, and music can be enjoyed in so many different ways, whether you can feel the vibrations of the music, you can listen to it. There's so many different ways to enjoy music for all sorts of people that fit into different categories of being able to listen. So the third and most important one is at the end of the show, it said, "This isn't a ghost story, this is a love story." And it's very interesting that so many of the shows that I've watched that seem completely unrelated. This is like a show about haunting. There was another show that I watched about time travel, another show that I watched about, making it big in America. On all of these shows, underneath all of it, it was love was the underlying message of all of it. And it talks about at the end, this wasn't a ghost story, it was a love story. The main character that we followed throughout the show did fall in love, and she had to take on different roles throughout the show, but it removed this factor of like the unknown, of the scariness of it, and to say, if we do everything in love, if we do everything in this idea that we're doing it to create something amazing, something of value, and if we see every approach that we do in life in that manner, that this is out of love, this is out of the experience of wanting to create good in this world, then we will see that reflected back to us, because the way that we feel towards the world is the world that we see. And that is just extremely important. So whatever view you have of the world is the view that you get back. So I believe it says that in quantum physics, everything that you observe is changed depending on the observer. So everything that we do reflects back to us what we are seeing based off of the experiences that we've had. Now, we can choose to have better experiences, we can choose to have more intentional experiences, but every single thing that we are witnessing in life is reflecting back to us how we feel about ourselves and the world around us and how we function through the world. So if your experiences have always been out of anxiety or out of fear, out of like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen, if we take a step back, we listen to music that brings up our moods, if we let go of that past in a effective manner, we can then be present in what we're doing and realize at what vibration and for what reason we're doing things. If we're doing it because we're upset or we're mad or we're angry, we may want to reevaluate that, because those feelings are very draining, they're very tiring, and to do things genuinely because you just want to laugh and you want to smile and you want to make someone's day brighter, when you do that, you make your own day brighter as well. Have you ever given a compliment to someone and then just felt really bad about yourself after? Probably not. Usually when we behave really warmly to others and kindly, we usually feel better. So that was the few things that I wanted to talk about on The Haunting of Bly Manor. It was a wonderful show. I know that since it's called The Haunting, it might seem really scary, and there are some intense moments, but I did watch it all by myself and sometimes in the dark, and I was like, maybe this wasn't the best idea. But it's actually a really good show, and there's a lot of important lessons and very interesting storyline, important messages, and the way that they tied it in all at the end was done very well. And Netflix has impressed me quite often with how much attention to detail they put in and how much production value they create, and Netflix has really outshined in categories I had no idea it could. So I hope you check it out. Netflix series, and everything that you choose is your decision and the choice is yours. It always has been. I hope to see you soon, but until then, I hope you have an amazing day.